Howdy there, friends and neighbors. Bobby here today. Hey, we're out in the shop today and we've got this little 93 model Saturn SL2 and we're going to show you how to put a water pump on it, so stay tuned, folks. Okay friends, the first thing that we did today, we went ahead and jacked up the front end of the vehicle with our floor jack, and we supported it on the front pinch weld on both sides with a heavy duty jack stand. Next, let's go ahead and take off the right front wheel and the inner splash shield that's going to expose the front of the engine. Okay friends, with the right front wheel removed and the lower splash shield that fits in this corner right here that covers up the front of the engine, we can actually see the water pump now. This is the water pump that I've got my finger on, okay? And we grabbed it and just wiggled it, and actually this pump bearing is totally gone. I mean, this thing's got a lot of play in it, and we definitely see where the water has been leaking out. So we're gonna go ahead and take this thing off of here now. The first thing that you need to do is, before you take your belt off, is try to break loose your pulley bolts here. But see, this thing is just spinning, so we're going to go ahead and take our circ belt off, and then we'll take a large pair of channel locks and grab our pulley and break these bolts loose. Now this wrench here is attached to the spring-loaded tensioner, and it takes a 14mm wrench, and I use this long box-end wrench with a little bit of offset. And you can go ahead and turn it in a clockwise motion, and when you do that, it releases the tension on the belt, and you can take your belt off out of place. You don't have to take the belt all the way off, just pull it off of this pulley, kind of lay it out of your way. Okay friends, with the water pump pulley removed and laid out of the way, just kind of lay it out of the way because it doesn't want to come down through this opening here, but you can move it totally out of your way to where you can get all your water pump bolts and properly clean the surface here. So it looks like there's about 6 bolts to hold this thing on. Looks like 4 of them are going to be pretty easy from down below. Let's go up top and take a look. Okay friends, from up top, what I did, I went ahead and just laid it back in place, but this one 10mm headed bolt here holds this windshield washer jug in place. So just remove that, and then you can slide the jug back just a little bit, lay it out of your way. That's going to make life a little bit easier when we go to fit our air ratchet in here to take these top bolts off of this water pump. So let's do that now, and then we'll get this water pump off of here. Friends, before you pull your water pump off, go ahead and put you down some type of drain pan. Actually, we have this big old gigantic, it's a 55-gallon drum spill tray is what it is. This thing's huge. I've had guys always make fun of me saying, hey, you got like a kiddie swimming pool you're throwing underneath that car. Well, it works great. I've had this thing a long time. It's nasty. I clean it out every once in a while, but it works great for this. Now what we're going to do, we're going to start up top. We're going to use a 3/8 air ratchet with a 10mm swivel socket on it. Start taking these water pump bolts out, and we'll go down below and take the ones down there loose, and then we'll show you how to clean up the surface of the block. Okay friends, with all the bolts removed on the water pump, we went ahead and pulled it off. This here is the water pump right here, and I want to show you this right here. I'm holding the housing of the pump, and I don't know if you can see how much play there is in this pump. This sucker here was definitely wore out. And notice that our little catch tray down there caught just about 100% of all the antifreeze that fell out when we broke this loose, so keeps your shop floor quite clean. Alright folks, so I'll show you next how to get this thing cleaned up and ready to install the new pump. Okay friends, back underneath the car, here's the surface of the block that our water pump seals up against, and we need to clean all of this old gasket material and silicone off of here. And what we're going to use is a 90-degree die grinder with a roll lock disc on here, and what we can't get with this, we'll just use a scraper, and we'll get this all cleaned up and then wipe down good with some brake clean. So let's get to it. Okay folks, with the surface of our block clean and dry of any type of foreign debris, we have our new water pump in hand with the gasket already held in place with a thin layer of silicone RTV. Let's go ahead and put this in place, get the bolts started, and tighten it down. Okay friends, now our new water pump is put in place, bolted down, and torqued to the proper spec. Go ahead and spin the water pump. Make sure that turns freely, okay? I have put on aftermarket water pumps in the past where they're not made quite to specification, and the impeller on the part that actually pumps the water actually may be sticking out too far, could rub up against the housing and be binding. So just always check that, make sure before you start reassembling. Now from this point folks, go ahead and just reassemble everything in the opposite order that I took it apart. And then we'll check back with you when we're ready to crank it up and bleed out the coolant. So first of all, take your pulley, pull it back into place, bolt it down, 3 bolts, put your serpentine belt back in place, put your dust cover back in place, put your right front wheel back on the car, torque it down to proper specification, and then we'll see you at the point that we're ready to fill this thing with coolant, crank it up, and bleed out the air pocket. Okay friends, we've got everything buttoned up on this car. Let's go ahead and fill it up with coolant before we ever even try to crank it. Let's go and fill this thing up. Now folks, some cars have a bleeder screw at some point, like maybe on the thermostat housing or something. A lot of your Hondas, Asian cars do have that. A GM product like this typically does not have a bleeder screw, but if you find one on the coolant system somewhere, definitely go ahead and crack that bleeder loose. It's going to help you bleed this system out a little bit quicker. So let me go and get this thing filled up, and then we'll crank it up. Okay friends, we have the engine running now, and we're just monitoring everything and topping off our overflow reservoir as it heats up. On the inside, we actually got it on heat and the fan blowing wide open, because you want to make sure if it does have a water control valve that you got that open and you're letting the coolant circulate through the heater core. Make sure you don't get an air pocket in that area. And we're just going to let this thing run till we get it up to operating temperature and put as much coolant in it as we can. Take it on a test drive. We'll come back, we'll let it cool back off, and we'll double check the reservoir and make sure it's still full, and then we'll call our customer. Folks, this is how you do a water pump on a Saturn S car. I hope this video helped a little bit. Have a great day, and we will see you next time. Take care.